rather be there in person to meet all of you, but I do thank you for the present virtually today. So I'm here to talk about export opportunities for irradiated agricultural products into the U.S. And with that, I'll be talking about U.S. market access process and phytosanitary irradiation as a The overview for the presentation today will talk about who is USDA-APHIS, the market access process, phytosanitary irradiation, and then import requirements for products into the U.S. The Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service has a few different divisions under it. The Plant Protection and Quarantine Division with the group Phytosanitary Issues Management. We are the National Plant Protection Organization for the U.S. We work to facilitate the safe trade of agricultural products. We work on new market access requests for imported commodities and commodities exported from the U.S. and market retention and expansion for U.S. commodities exported from the U.S. to foreign markets. We also handle export policy and phytosanitary certification. And I forgot to mention, today I'm presenting in English, but my colleague Caesar was kind enough to translate this presentation into Spanish, which he can share with you later today in case that's helpful for you. The market access request process has a few steps. It starts with initiating the event. Scientific review of the commodity is completed. There's stakeholder and country consultations. A risk management document is developed. And finally, the regulatory process of publication of the final rule in our country's federal registrar. The initiating event starts when an NO of an exporting country requests market access for their commodity into the U.S. And that request will be made to phytosanitary issues management information, what plant parts such as consumption or propagation, and also the pest of the plant known to exist in the country of origin. The risk management document is completed and it lists the concern and also the specific measures that will be used to the U.S. Explains why each region was selected, and it also provides the scientific evidence of efficacy that the pest will be mitigated. It could include orchard-level production practice, such as spraying or integrated pest management. It could include traffic and visual inspection of the commodity itself. The market access request process in the U.S. is very transparent. During the time, all of the documents are posted to the public for viewing on our APHIS Stakeholder Risk Assessment Consultation website, and they are also sent to the NPPO of the exporting country. If you go online, you can view all of the draft risk assessments that are available for comment, and that would be for commodities from different countries into the U.S. Both the public U.S. government as well as the NPPOs. Next in the regulatory process, APHIS will publish a proposed rule in the Federal Register for more comments. It would be available to the U.S. public to view, and also the general viewing audience across different countries, specifically exporting NPPO where the commodity is grown. The proposed rule or notice will be available for comment from 30 to 60 days, depending on what commodity is being proposed for import. All of the the final rule or note. And once the comment period is ended and everything has been addressed, and two MPPOs are in agreement, the final notice of rule will be published in the Federal Register. And this process is also very transparent, where we have our proposed rules or notice available for comments online. So that will be the end of the process for gaining market access for a commodity into the U.S. Sometimes the pest risk requires a phytosanitary treatment in order to bring that commodity into the U.S. So those treatments are strategies to mitigate the risk from pests that would be remaining on the plant part or able to survive in our environment upon arrival to the U.S. Treatments could include fumigation, heat treatment, cold treatment, or what we're talking about today, irradiation treatment. So irradiation treatments approved by APHIS require a minimum absorbed dose between 60 and 400 gray, and the source could be from X-ray or EV. What is irradiation? I'm sure that you all are experts by now after attending the workshop, and if not yet, then by the end you sure will be. Radiation is used for different applications, from sterilization to polymerization of materials. In this case, we're talking about phytosanitary irradiation, and the purpose here is to mitigate insect pests. Okay, to continue?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Oh, thank you. So irradiation and treatment endpoints basically want to devitalize the pest of concern. It doesn't necessarily kill the pest of concern. It may result in sterility, where the insect is unable to reproduce, or inability to emerge or fly, where the insect is unable to develop to the point of maturity, or it could result in mortality, where the target pest is killed, and that could be immediately, or it could be a delayed mortality. Irradiation is also used to inactivate or devitalize seeds, tubers, bulbs, or cuttings. And irradiation as a phytosanitary treatment is not new. It's been around for a long time. For U.S. history of it, back in the 80s, the Food and Drug Administration approved the use of irradiation on papayas grown in Hawaii as a method to reduce spread of fruit flies. And in 1997, irradiation was first approved by APHIS for use on papayas from Hawaii to ship to the U.S. mainland, Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. Then in 2002, irradiation was approved by APHIS as a phytosanitary treatment for all admissible fresh fruits and vegetables from all countries. Let's talk about some benefits of irradiation. Maybe you've heard during the workshop. Phytosanitary use of irradiation is effective against a very wide range of insect pests. Quality is very well maintained during the treatment in most fruits and vegetables. And together, these could provide alternative use to fumigants, such as methylbromide, where we know is being phased out. It could provide a treatment for commodities which no treatment exists yet, because perhaps there is no chemical label or approval ready yet for use of a chemical on the commodity for a specific pest. It can provide an alternative to complex systems approaches, and as I said before, it's a great option for commodities that are damaged by other treatments, such as a heat treatment or a fumigation treatment. I have a peach here because USDA was involved with quality studies on peaches to see how peaches maintained through the treatment process with phytosanitary irradiation. And the results were wonderful. Very good quality results on peaches were received. And after those quality results are shared, people that may be unfamiliar with the use of irradiation as a phytosanitary treatment hop right on board when they see how well the produce withstands the treatment. So if irradiation is chosen as a method for treatment, there are a couple programs that can be chosen from. The exporting MPPO could decide to use a pre-clearance program where the product is irradiated in the country of origin and then shipped to the United States. Or they could choose upon arrival program where the commodity is shipped untreated from the country of origin and then upon arrival to the U.S. receives the phytosanitary treatment of irradiation. Each of those programs have regulatory steps that need to be completed prior to the use. First is the framework equivalency work plan, then an operational work plan, and finally a commodity-specific addendum. So the framework equivalency work plan for irradiation is modeled after the ISPM 18 requirements for use of phytosanitary irradiation, which is guidance put out by the IPPC. And that guidance basically outlines the fundamental requirements to allow bilateral trade of commodities treated by phytosanitary irradiation. And there is a special emphasis on being able to keep products that are treated or untreated segregated, and also very good traceability and maintenance of the treatment records so that confidence is there in the event that a live pest is detected in a box which has been treated. So we can be confident that that pest has been sterilized. Because there is not a quick method to be able to tell if fruit or produce was treated by irradiation. Irradiation does not leave residues that you could test for like you can for items that were fumigated. So we have to have good confidence in the treatment. Our equivalency work plan also includes the acceptance of generic doses for pest mitigation, which APHIS uses. That's 150 gray for fruit flies of the family Tediperae, and 400 gray for all other insects, except for adults and pupae of the order Lepidoptera. So we would want our trading partners to also accept those generic doses for products that are sent from the United States to their country for importation. Okay, so far, APHIS has signed the framework agreement with 22 countries, or 22 trading partners. The first was signed in 2006, and the last was signed in 2022. After the framework has been completed, the operational work plan would need to be agreed upon between the MPPOs. This would provide a summary of the operational procedures for how shipping the commodity and treating the commodity, logistics for the commodity would work out, safeguarding requirements, facility requirements, pre and post harvest conditions, treatment requirements, monitoring, corrective action, and it also provides a method for program review and evaluation in case any changes are needed down the road. The commodity-specific addendum specifically addresses the commodity that will be shipped and the pest of concern. It's a couple pages long, just very short and to the point. It includes the required mitigation, which in this case would be what dose of irradiation needs to be applied. It will include export inspection procedures in the country of origin or the receiving country, and also sampling and inspection protocols. Here we have highlighted a few pests that are pests of blueberries down found in that region, which include the European grapevine moth and the Mediterranean fruit fly. European grapevine moth is mitigated at a minimum dose of 400 gray, and Mediterranean fruit fly requires a minimum dose of 100 gray. Okay, here's an example of an addendum. It has dual languages just to make sure that everyone's on the same page with that. This is for grapes from Chile using irradiation. The pest of concern here is the Chilean false red mite, which requires a minimum dose of 300 gray, and the med fly and European grapevine moth that I mentioned before. Additional approvals need to be done before programs are operational. First, it includes the facility approval and certification by APHIS. That would be for the radiation treatment facility. And also importer compliance agreements between the importer and APHIS, and permits need to be in place. Packaging needs to be approved, and a process configuration of the commodity for treatment needs to be approved. And this process, whether it's one box or a pallet, needs to be reviewed so that you have confidence that the minimum dose of irradiation was met throughout the load. And that is done by placing mini dosimeters in the boxes, around the stacks, in high and lows, to make sure that the minimum dose of irradiation was received throughout. And the dosimeters used for this process need to be compliant with international standards or an acceptable national standard, so that there's standardization in the measurement of applied irradiation. Also, APHIS has a requirement for pest-proof packaging. The reason is because we want to have confidence that if a pest is found inside a box that has been treated, then that pest was treated and is in fact mitigated. So we don't want to have movement of insects in and out of the boxes after treatment. For this reason, APHIS requires a mesh be placed on any openings in the commodity box, such as aeration holes, or alternatively, the commodity placed in a mesh bag that doesn't allow insects to move in and out of the commodity itself. Also, boxes could be completely taped shut so that there are no opportunities for movement. Another consideration when packaging is modified atmosphere packaging. That would be packaging where the internal air around the commodity has been changed to delay, to extend the shelf life or delay any rotting of the commodity itself. So those modified atmosphere packages have had some results where it would require a higher dose to mitigate pests inside that packaging. So for that reason, APHIS limits which modified atmosphere packaging can be used, so that the oxygen level in the packaging needs to be at least 10%. That hasn't been a big issue, but I just want to make that known. And an example of a modified atmosphere packaging would be ready-to-eat lettuce that comes in a closed bag without air holes. Here we have papayas from Hawaii, mangoes from India. We have some Hawaii products such as beetle and moringa pods. On the bottom right, we have peaches grown in South Carolina and Georgia for shipment to Mexico, and pomegranates from Peru. Here are more examples. You can see a pallet level mesh covering here for a large stack, and on the bottom, guava guavas from Mexico. To the right, a smaller box level application where the aeration holes in the box have been covered with mesh. Some additional considerations for produce destined to the United States. They have to abide by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration requirements. One is that the commodity that was treated be labeled. It could be labeled with the Redora, which is faintly in the background here, or it can be labeled with the words treated by or treated with irradiation. And those have to be visible at the point of sale. If you have a lot of fruit for display at a grocery box, it could be, a label put on the side that says where the product is from and that it was treated. Or you could use small PLU stickers on the fruit, which would include Redora or the words treated by irradiation. Also, the packaging that's subject to the radiation, like the packaging that holds the commodity, aka the box, that needs to be approved by the FDA to show that no leaching of materials will occur into the fruit. And usually the treatment facility handles those on behalf of the importer, and they're very well versed in what's allowed and what's not allowed. Furthermore, the FDA limits irradiation treatments on fresh fruit and vegetables to 1,000 gray for phytosanitary reasons. So when you're applying the treatment, you'll have to stay within the minimum dose, but don't go over the maximum dose of 1,000 gray. And it's a very low treatment for disinfestation of insects. So sometimes it can be a challenge to stay under the 1,000 gray, but if you take into consideration that you will be applying such a low dose when treating for phytosanitary irradiation, then you can make accommodations in your stacking or load orientation to be sure to stay under that limit. Here's the labeling that I mentioned. You can see Mexican guavas coming in the clamshell with the Redora on the side. Those are from Mexico. Another example of guavas from Mexico in a clamshell with both the words and the Redora. These are some PLU stickers you can see for mangosteen from Thailand, dragon fruit from Vietnam, and mangoes from Australia, where they have just on the PLU either the words or Redora. And another example from figs from Peru, where they have a nice green Redora here on the front. Produce from Hawaii is often in taped boxes and stamped on the side with the Redora and the words, treated by irradiation. Okay, recently APHIS has put all of their import requirements for plants and plant products into one place. It's called ACER, the Agricultural Commodity Import Requirement Database. And this is where anyone can go and search for approved commodities to determine the import requirements for those and also to view resources. And I want to point out this treatment hub tab here that I really encourage you to visit, because there is a wealth of information there on irradiation treatments, and also includes a process that facilities would need to follow in order to be certified by APHIS. So if you're planning a facility, or if you're building a facility, you can look at those requirements and incorporate that into your plan objectives as you're going, so that you're well aware of what APHIS will be looking for to approve the facility for irradiation treatment for commodities to the U.S. So here's an example of a snapshot of some imported irradiated produce. So irradiated produce is imported into the continental U.S. from Hawaii and also from foreign trading partners. the Irradiation Reporting and Accountability Database as a way for APHIS to record phytosanitary irradiation treatments on commodities being imported into the U.S. or shipped from Hawaii. So I took a look at just this past month, from June to July, and APHIS has certified treatments for over 1 million boxes of produce. The biggest imports lately have been mango and guava from Mexico. That's why I have them bolded there. But also we've done treatments for cremolaya, chili manzano, dragon fruit, fig, pitaya, mangosteen, pomegranate, lychee, pomelo, star apple, and longan just in this past month. And from Hawaii, the biggest commodity that's shipped using irradiation, or the largest volume, is sweet potato, or yam. And also we're getting lychee, logan, papaya, basil, beetle, curry leaf, and moringa leaves and pods at the moment from Hawaii. So I think that it translates to quite a lot of kilograms of commodity treated just in the past month or so. And then I also want to talk about, I know it's seasonal, so you don't see all of the commodities here that come in using irradiation as a phytosanitary treatment. I'll mention some more. Actually, let me tell you first that the mango is coming from India, Mexico, Colombia, Jamaica, Vietnam. Mexico is also sending crembola, chili manzano, dragon fruit, figs, guavas, pitayas. We have mangosteen coming from Thailand, pomegranate from Peru and Mexico, and lychee, pomelo, star apple, logan coming, and dragon fruit coming from Vietnam. In addition to those, okay, great, I'm just going to share a couple closing thoughts here and let you guys go have lunch after hearing about all these delicious fruits. So I want to share some more fruit that we do get imported into the U.S. using phytosanitary radiation, and the produce quality is maintained very well. Cape gooseberry, amarilla, lemon, clementines, tangerines, mandarins, grapefruit, sweet lime, sweet orange, blueberries, grapes, peaches, cherries, and pears all do very well maintaining the produce quality after treatment. And I would want to share just one story to help maybe frame some perspective about why it's nice to have irradiation as a phytosanitary treatment as an option for commodities that do require a treatment. Just some experience that we had for U.S. exports to Mexico. Actually, our first program approved with irradiation treatment was for South Carolina and Georgia peaches into Mexico. Prior to using phytosanitary radiation, we certified the peaches for export using a complex systems approach or methylbromide fumigation. What happened was one season, the producers were unable to achieve the complex systems approach. So that option was no longer available to them because of pest presence in the orchard. They had to use fumigation with methylbromide. So when they shipped fumigated peaches down to Mexico, the importer and the importer distributor that sold the peaches was unhappy with the quality of the peaches after methylbromide fumigation. They were used to getting peaches from a systems approach that were not treated because they didn't need treatment. They didn't need to be treated, for instance. But now they received fumigated peaches. The importer stated that the shelf life was greatly reduced. The peaches were going bad before they could sell them. So they didn't want to buy fumigated peaches anymore. So we came with the option to use phytosanitary irradiation for the peaches. The importer was very happy. The irradiated peaches ended up having a longer shelf life than the peaches is they came by fumigation or by systems approach. So in this case, the use of irradiation was driven by the fact that quality of the fruit is maintained and the shelf life is longer for that treatment compared to other conventional treatments. So I think that's a nice perspective to share, which is outside of the regulatory world, but more for the importer-distributor business associations working with treated produce. And we don't have a lot of exports of treated produce from the U.S. right now because there's a limited irradiation treatment facilities available for use. We have a very large country, and a lot of times the logistics to get the commodity to the treatment center is arduous. So that's another hurdle. More irradiation facilities available so that logistics for treatment become easier. And with that, I'll stop here. Caesar has my presentation in Spanish for you. I encourage you to contact me for any further discussion or if you have questions. And here I put the APHIS Stakeholder Registry web link there, where you can go to the website and you can choose all of the regulatory aspects you're interested in, such as new market access or proposed rules for imported commodities. And when they do happen, APHIS will actually send you an email to say, hey, these are the updates if you want to take a look. So thanks a lot for your time and attention today, and also for letting me go into your lunch a little. So I wish everybody a wonderful end to the workshop. And again, thanks for allowing me to participate today.
Una pregunta para Maggie.
Todas las demás oficinas de ustedes en los demás países están al tanto de todos esos procedimientos. Si uno los contacta, ellos igual le atenderían y comenzaríamos los procesos igual que ustedes lo han hecho con México y los otros países.
Yes, sir, we are. I work with international services that are located across Central and South America with specific country coverage. So those officers will be aware of this process and could even share information with you. And if needed, then I could be involved in a meeting with, for instance, Caesar to help me understand, since language is a barrier. So we're very open to sharing this information. As I said, if you take a look on the internet at ACIR, A-C-I-R, USDA, in any search engine, you'll be able to see that treatment tab, and there's a lot of information there, even documents that the facility would need to complete for APHIS to have a look for approval. So I encourage you to go there and yes, reach out to any APHIS office, and if they don't have the information, they'll get in touch with us here and we'll have it for you.
Muchas gracias por tu explicación. Quería saber si Estados Unidos cuenta con una normativa para habilitación de las plantas que operan en Estados Unidos, si esa habilitación cada qué tiempo se renueva o si es única, y si cuentan con un entrenamiento para los inspectores que realizan el tratamiento y la certificación de ese producto que es irradiado.
Yes, we have a national program that all of facilities that apply radiation need to abide by in regulatory affairs on the industry side. And on the APHIS side, we have training that we provide to our officials who are there to witness and report treatments. It's an internal APHIS training, but there are some materials available online that can be shared with the public. But yes, all of our officers are trained and in the use of phytosanitary irradiation and have to take a test and pass, and also do shadow assignments so that they have experience before they're responsible for that. for the actions that happen at that facility or for approving applied treatments.
Perfect.
I'm Selina Horak from IEE. One of the points that has been raised during this workshop is the concern about the acceptability of the fruit that is irradiated. No? So I wonder what is your suggestion to us? What will be the strategy? Of course, one point that has been also mentioned here is that professional communicators should be involved, no, for the campaign, especially when we have to disseminate this information to the different publics, not the different audience. So, but what will be your suggestion? Which will be the strategy, especially what kind of activity, if outreach material on which is the when, how, what will be involved in this kind of strategy to disseminate, especially for acceptability point of view of this irradiated fruit by phytosanitary treatment?
Right. There's kind of a perceived consumer acceptance problem that may not be a problem. So consumers may not be familiar with the term irradiation. So outreach and education is helpful to build confidence in the public, but more so confidence in the retailer and the distributor that they'll be able to sell their product to the public. In the United States, one good example that was done, it was done by a grocery store, Wegmans, when they started irradiating ground beef. The reason why they started irradiating ground beef was because of the concern of E. coli. And as we know, ground beef should be fully cooked to make sure that E. coli is not a problem. You could get sick. So Wegmans offered irradiated ground beef as a way to provide additional safety measures for their consumers. And that's the way they marketed. They had beef tasting at the grocery store where it was shown that since the E. coli was not present due to the treatment, you could have a medium burger. It didn't have to be well done, brown, which people prefer, less cooked of a burger. It's tasty. So they got to taste it, and they also got to feel pride in reducing the risk of pathogen spread to their families. And I think the safety aspect of that, food safety and the quality aspect of it, is more sells their radiation than the fact that we're stopping the spread of pests. In the regulatory mind, we don't want invasive insects or pests to cross borders, so this is why we do it. But there's actually other benefits that the community can appreciate from using this treatment. Like I said, the shelf life is prolonged. We've seen in blueberries and strawberries. You buy strawberries at the market, they're moldy in a week. Even with phytosanitary doses, there's some reduction of spoilage organisms present. So that's a benefit to the distributor. They'll have more time to sell their product. Outreach in these types of workshops that involve produce communities is great. And also an increased understanding of the need for more facilities so that logistics is not a big hurdle. So, continuing the workshops, doing some consumer outreach with the benefits, whether it's, your fruit doesn't have chemical residue on it because it was not fumigated, that's a plus. A lot of people don't consider residues on fruits. So, also, the taste. Bring some irradiated mangoes around, they're so good. And the reason is because for United States, we require treatment of mangoes to come in. They often get hot water treated to reduce the threat of fruit flies. So they have to pick the mangoes early. They're not ripe. Dip them in the hot water and then send them on. So we get them here and, it's so ripe, but once you taste a tree ripened that's come, you know, it's a game changer. So just delicious. When Australia was marketing their mangoes here for the first time, they had a nice display set up in the grocery store with tasting tree ripened mangoes, and also in their country of origin, they encourage the use of irradiation by saying that it's good for the environment as opposed to fumigants. So, you know, you're getting good tasting product that lasts longer and you're reducing harm to the environment. So I think consumers really appreciate that information, that once they have the whole package of what the point of it is, I don't think it would be a problem. My friends, you know, eat produce, we buy it at the grocery store. We presume that it's safe. Not really many people are worried, you know, to check, oh, it's irradiated. By the time it's for sale, I don't think that the, you know, consumer acceptance should be a big issue to reduce the use of this technology. So yeah, your workshops are helping greatly.
That sounds great. Thank you very much. And I assume that you are a good consumer of this kind of irradiated. Oh, sorry. No, thank you for that. And also, I assume that you are a good consumer of this kind of irradiated fruits.
A lot of them get eaten up before they make it to Maryland. In Maryland, I have received irradiated dragon fruit, guavas, and mangoes during workshops, during other phytosanitary workshops I've been to. I tasted a variety of imported fruit and vegetables that were treated, including peppers. So much of the fruit is sent to, I think a lot of the fruit gets eaten in Texas for the Mexican guavas and mangoes, and we were lucky to get Australian mangoes on the East Coast here. Indian origin mangoes treated with irradiation are usually consumed mostly in New York and don't make it down here to me. So yes, we could take some more so that I get to have access to more here in Maryland. But yeah, I'm a consumer of irradiated product, irradiated produce, and APHIS is an advocate of using the technology. So I'm very happy to see that its use is being expanded.
After your presentation, there was some questions on the procedures. The colleague from the APHIS here, based in Argentina, mentioned that the protocol arrangements, I think like a preliminary step, and then the equivalency agreement. But the participants here were still not clear on these two processes. If is the protocol arrangements between the National Phytosanitary Protection Agency and APHIS, and I think it's the exporters, and the equivalency agreement is the first step for the equivalency agreement. How does it work?
Okay, so you can get market access for your commodities into the United States. That's, you know, a process in itself. If there is a need for a treatment and you want to consider using irradiation as a phytosanitary treatment, then the two governments need to sign that framework equivalency work plan. And the main reason for signing that work plan is because it covers two generic doses that APHIS recognizes. The one is 400 gray for all pests except for pupae in adults of Lepidoptera, and the other is 150 gray mid-dose for fruit flies. Those two generic doses are not included in the annexes to the International Standards of Phytosanitary Measures at this point. APHIS has done enough research to have full confidence that those schedules mitigate pests of concern. But since they're not included yet in the international standard guidance, We have a separate document that we require to be signed bilaterally so that if we were to export produce to an importing country, that they would accept the same generic minimum dose schedules that we offer to that country. So that's the main reason for signing that. And once that's signed, then you could have the option to use irradiation as a treatment to bring in your commodities to the U.S. if needed. After that is signed, then a cascade of the regulatory requirements, such as the work plan, the commodity-specific addendum can go on. But we want to have the bilateral agreement that the country we are accepting the treated produce from will also accept ours using those generic minimum dose schedules.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. We appreciate your time and your presentation. Thank you very much for your